Y'all, we're going to be talking about the one, the only, the Wendy, the Adelson in today's video. And for those who don't know, Wendy Adelson is to the Adelson case like Melanie Pulaski is to the Daybell case. So let's get into it.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. Hello, the Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. That's the sofa. And this is Paul. I hope you're doing well. My name's Paul if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, my name's still Paul. So we're doing a little like catch up, a refresher before the trial of Donna Adelson begins. This is depending on you're watching this. I'm filming this on the 2nd of August. So we're getting ready to be into, jury selection, all this type of stuff if the trial pops off. We will be streaming it on the podcast channel. So that's in the description below. Be sure and check it out. And we'll do little updates and stuff like that over on this channel. So let's go ahead and begin. Okay. Now, so remember, at the center of this case is Dan Markel. This is the victim. He was married to Wendy Adelson, the father of their children, and in a murder for hire plot, he was killed. This is essentially over a custody battle, okay? So let's go ahead and just like dive in a little bit to the personal side of his life, and specifically the woman, okay, who was his wife for 7 years, the one, the only, the Wendy Adelson. So remember, like I said, they had 2 children, or have to, well, he had 2 children. She has 2 children. I believe their names are Benjamin and Lincoln. And this case essentially, in a nutshell, comes down to that right there. This custody battle about moving them down to South Florida, the whole 9 yards, whatever. Okay, so Wendy is the only daughter of Harvey and Donna Adelson. Now, a longtime family friend, Dr. Ben Graber, referred to the Adelson family as a 5-star family back in a 2023 Miami Herald interview. They also said that Donna's driving goal was to raise her kids to be academic achievers, humanitarians, and upstanding citizens. So now, for all intents and purposes, Wendy from a young age was poised to embody basically everything that Donna wanted her adult children to be, okay? So just at 13 years old, Wendy recognized the advantages that she enjoyed were like not the same thing amongst other kids, right? Now, this would inspire her to create an organization that would help underprivileged kids enjoy educational opportunities that they like might not have other had, right? So during her junior year, she was named to Sunbank's Sun Team for Outstanding Community Service and went on to win Zonta's Young Woman in Public Affairs Scholarship. So the scholarship was awarded to an individual who holds a high academic average and is active in both school and community. Now, Wendy was also the valedictorian of her graduating class of like 595 people, I think. She would also go on to get her master's in philosophy from the University of Cambridge and a JD from the University of Miami Law School. Her practice focuses on like humanitarian, immigration law, child advocacy, and disability. So she was very much like the apple of her parents' eye kind of a thing, right? Now, David Latt, one of Dan's friends from Harvard, wrote an article about the Adelsons for the legal website Above the Law. An anonymous tipster told him, quote, they worship Wendy. There's a shrine-like area of the Adelsons' house, not quite a room, more like a hallway, that's dedicated almost entirely to pictures of her since she was a kid, end quote. Then they would go on to say that Wendy reportedly gloated about the shrine as it was a special thing, but it was much more eerie than special. Now, at the time, of course, the tipster didn't realize like all this foreshadowing was being done, right? In which the links that the Adelsons would go to for little Miss Wendy, okay? Now, if you put aside like all of Wendy's, all her achievements, academic, personal, whatever, right? Her parents, especially Donna, felt like their only daughter needed to start thinking about her future. So, getting married, all the things, right? So Stephen Epstein, in his book Extreme Punishment, described how Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel first met. So at her mom's urging, Wendy signed up for a J-date as Donna was insistent that the time had come for her 25-year-old daughter to identify okay? Her Mr. Right. She had to go find him. This is what it's going to be. So the search became literally such a mission for Donna that one Saturday afternoon in July, Wendy was scrolling through the eligible bachelors on the dating website, right? And her mom's like standing behind her, looking over her shoulder, all super into it, all that type of stuff, right? Not a single one of the dozens of bachelors from South Florida who were close to Wendy's age met all of her or Donna's strict criteria, right? Now, knowing that she was going to begin her career in the nation's capital, she expanded her search to include the area like in and around Washington, D.C., okay? Now, as Wendy's like about to give up, she's like, Mr. Right's not out there, my little Prince Charming, I can't find him, whatever. Donna's all like, stop, oh my God, look at this, oh my goodness. And she points to the profile of this like really handsome 31-year-old Harvard-educated lawyer, Dan Markel. And Donna's all like, I think we found the one. I think we found Mr. Right. And then when the two of them eventually meet, they were like smitten immediately, right? Now, Epstein described their initial face-to-face encounter as this, quote, Dan felt a magnetic physical attraction to his new girlfriend, but fell in love with Wendy more because of her intellect, her wit, and her zany sense of humor. He thoroughly admired her passion to help the less fortunate and to commit her life to public service. Now, on the flip side of that, Wendy felt an unmistakable physical connection to Dan. He too had like this kind of zany, playful side that she liked. And Wendy essentially like concluded early on from his network of friends and whatnot that Dan had a big, caring heart. Like people really enjoyed him. So now apparently Wendy also couldn't help but admire how passionate he was about like abstract ideas, how deeply he thought things through, just his level of intellect. Dan basically checked every box on her "can I envision him as my children's father's" list, okay? So there's that part, right? So this would, and when you look back on it and you see these dynamics of it, it's so heartbreaking to see like, oh my gosh, look at where this started and look at where it ended. Now, from where it started, this young couple's, their love grew. And in May of 2005, Dan and Wendy went on a vacation to Israel. Now, when they returned, Dan made a post on Prof's blog. It's a legal blog that he started, whatever. And it was like he won life's lottery. And he told the readers that, quote, last Thursday night in a little village called Kad Nez, I hope I'm saying that right, overlooking the Sea of Galilee, I became the luckiest guy on earth when Wendy Adelson agreed to marry me, end quote. So by all accounts, right, this couple, gorgeous couple, major educated, wonderful all the way around, right? They seemingly had it all. So what could have possibly gone wrong? I mean, I'm just saying from the sounds of it, it's called Donna Adelson. Okay. So this is where it begins and sadly kind of where it ends. So before we get into that, let's take a moment and let's look at like how religion played a role within the Adelson family, okay? Because when we get to trial, you're going to hear exactly how Donna weaponize their faith to get her way. Like, doesn't matter what the cost is, it's my way, the highway type thing, right? So depending on how much you already know about like, the Adelson and whatnot, meddling in her only daughter's marriage was not her first attempt at playing the puppeteer in the kids' lives, right? So Donna, and then obviously her husband Harvey by extension, they made their eldest son Robert choose between him or Haritha, the love of his life, who happened to be Hindu. Now, his parents were hardly the poster children for devout Jews, but now, as Stephen Epstein said, and I'll quote him again, they couldn't stomach the thought of one of their children being in love with a Gentile. Robert caved to his overbearing family and married himself a nice Jewish girl, end quote. However, it was not happily ever after, as you can imagine. So their marriage was very soon annulled, okay? And at that point, Robert and Haritha would wed 10 months later in a ceremony that would marry the sacred traditions of both Hinduism and Judaism. Donna would choose what should have been the happiest day of Dan and Wendy's life to show her son-in-law exactly who was boss. The Adelsons were taking the traditional route, right? They were paying for their daughter's wedding, whole 9 yards, right? However, Dan had one request which he considered like incredibly important, okay? He wanted the menu to be strictly kosher. Now, what would follow primarily at the hands of Donna and also like kind of like a yes dear from a Harvey type situation was not kosher, both literally and figuratively, okay. For the Adelsons, Judaism seemed almost like it was more something like to wear, to flaunt, that type of situation, right? It was something that would like get them into very affluent social circles, you know, all up and down the East Coast, South Florida, you name it, whatever, right? Now, for the Markels, it meant honoring and conserving traditional Jewish practices. So Dan grew up in a very, like, say, conservative synagogue, and as an adult, he would often attend services at an Orthodox temple. And he had like this very deep faith and adherence to Jewish law, and that was very genuine. However, to Wendy's, you know, her and her mom and all this type of stuff, right? It was like more of like just a front, right? Ruth Markel, Dan's mom, she said in her book, The Unveiling it's called, and I'm going to quote it, Donna never stopped questioning us as to why Dan was more observant about Jewish dietary laws than the rest of his family. It irritated her, end quote. Now, Stephen Epstein would describe Donna's stage 5 meltdown and the cruelty that would absolutely follow. I'll put it on the screen, we can read through it. Many of Dan's friends and family who'd be in attendance kept kosher and would be unable to eat unless the entire menu was so. Dan also believed the solemnity of the occasion required that attendees follow this sacred Jewish custom. However, the Adelson brood was dead set against this. Not a single family member kept kosher. They considered their future son-in-law's request selfish. For several weeks, the issue was unresolved. Donna finally relented, telling Dan that his happiness was more important than the food their guests would be served. Now, before we keep going, keep in mind, number one, Donna is, you know, her eldest son. There's a whole situation of like marrying outside the faith. Donna is the one that looked over Wendy's shoulder and was like, oh girl, there's your man, right? She saw all this. So just let that sink in as the type people that they are of, this is the entitledness. This is how extreme they are. And also I'm sitting here, I'm like, are these your only problems to worry about? Right? Like literally making your daughter and son-in-law's wedding miserable. I mean, like who does this? You know, it's just like, I mean, the privilege absolutely sends me, right? Now let's continue on. Let's look at another little passage here from Stephen Epstein's. Now let's continue. Let's look at another little passage here from Stephen Epstein's article. When Rabbi Robinson walked into the synagogue's kitchen that afternoon to check in with the kosher supervisor, he was startled to not find one. The catering staff informed him that at last minute change in the menu had been requested by the bride's family and that the food being served wouldn't be kosher after all. Dan was shaken and disoriented by the unexpected turn of events. He went from table to table telling friends and family who kept kosher not to eat the food. He was furious that as her very first act as his mother-in-law, Donna had deceived and humiliated him over something that she clearly knew he considered so important. I mean, honestly, at that point, I would have been like, yeah, we're good here. If this is day one, absolutely not, right? I mean, come on. So obviously Donna literally had zero regard for other people, their issues, their wants, their desires and whatnot, and obviously their lives. And also zero regard for how is this going to affect my daughter and her new husband. But Donna seemed to want to control everything and everybody around her, right? And she probably was watching Dan run around embarrassed and doing all this type of stuff and was getting some kind of pleasure out of this, right? That's why when we watch videos of her getting arrested or shaking in the back of the transport car or being uncomfortable, I don't have any sympathy for this woman, right? Because she spent so much time in her life making other people miserable. Now, as we sit here and get into the trial and it starts unfolding and whatnot, you're going to see how clear it becomes that the couple's shared faith would ultimately play a pivotal role in what ended up happening to Dan, right? The relationship already had a lot of tension going with the in-law, the whole 9 yards, right? And this would reach a fever pitch when they started having children. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put like a little pin in this. A lot of this stuff is going to come out of like, you know, Donna and all the stuff that went on when they go over text messages during the trial, okay? So those are gonna eventually just speak for themselves on that. So these pressures would all start just accumulating, right? Wendy hated Tallahassee. She had this resentment, like it's almost like the very things that she was attracted to a Dan would become a resentment with his intellect, his success, all these things, right? They would eventually end up going through a divorce. You can only imagine what kind of a divorce it was, right? So Wendy would wait till Dan was out of town to like drop this bomb, right? And be like, you know, hey, by phone call, like I'm leaving, whatever. So what Dan didn't know at this time, it wasn't like a, hey, I'm thinking about this. It was a, you know, she had already left. She had gotten the kids, like it was already gone, right? So emptied out half the house, you name it. And then she left divorce papers on their bed. Now, Dan Dan referred to their separation as Pearl Harbor, okay? He said it was, quote, a surprise attack that shook his world and changed everything, end quote. I mean, you can only imagine how this probably went over, right? Now, while Wendy always would publicly praise Dan as this doting, selfless father and, you know, this loving bond that you could see existed between the Markel men and, you know, all these little things or whatever, she seemingly could care less, right? When it came to the custody agreement, all that went out the window. Now, with the custody battle and all that went on with that and all that drama, that is the crux of this case, like I said, okay? The Adelsons would go absolutely nuclear over this. His entire family absolutely despised this man and wanted to control every last little thing. And it's why we're here at the trial coming up, because they would take his life over it, okay? So that is the gist of that part right there. So let's just leave that there. Let's pack it and put it under the sofa, okay? So keep in mind with this, Wendy has not been charged with anything. Wendy is a central figure in this. And again, if you watch the trial, if you follow this, the previous trials and whatnot, you know, this is almost like a wink, wink, I don't know what really happened kind of a thing. And they made very sure to treat it like, or to treat her with the utmost of care to not get her involved. I will be very curious to see if once this trial has concluded with Donna, if Wendy gets charged, because you cannot tell me in any way, shape, form that she didn't know what was going to happen. Now, do I think that she was privy to the little details? I mean, who knows? But overall, you cannot convince me that she did not know what was going down, right? And as you see, like with this evidence of people are like, yeah, she was treated like this, you know, they had a little shrine to where they had this and that. That's kind of the vibe you get where Wendy can do no wrong. You know, it's this very odd thing. And I mean, I think with Donna in her world, her kids can do no wrong. And while I understand that, and you see this often with parents, and I get that, there's also a level where that attitude from a parent creates monsters. And if the parent is already a monster, this is a bad combo. And obviously in this particular case, as we see, it was a combination that led to the murder of Dan, just to get the kids down to where they wanted them. They were willing, by they I mean Donna, Charlie, you know, the people who pulled out the actual murder. I mean, obviously they're bad people, they didn't do something right, okay? But the people who orchestrated it, and let's throw Wendy's name in there as well, but not in the context of her being able to be charged, but just, you know, being part of it. I mean, this is, look at what it costs. Now, at the end of the day, keep this in mind, Wendy got what she wanted. Right? She, at the end of the day, was like, hey, cool, here we go. But to me, from my vantage point, it's almost like, and I know they didn't meet Dan with the thought process of we're going to kill him, but it was like, when you look back with hindsight to Donna shopping for a husband with Wendy, you're like, oh my God, that was his fate. He was done. They hunted this man down. It's like brought him into their spider web and now he's gone. So anyways, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. While you're down there, if you could drop some little pillows off or something like that for myself, Roscoe and Spirit, Bo and Luke, and you, the Sofa Squad. So I have a place to sit and talk about this case, this trial, and all the other ones we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. Until we gather down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Ross on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.